Hello, my name is Dr. Russell Locke and I'm the Senior Tutor within the Department of Computer Science here at Loughborough. And today I'll be giving you a general open day talk on our department and our courses. So let's start off with a little bit of information about our department. We were founded in 1974, making us one of the first dedicated computer science departments in the country. And organisationally, we're part of a slightly larger entity, the School of Science, which brings together the departments of chemistry, computer science, mathematics, physics, and our Maths Education Centre. Now, for students on a daily basis, what this means is that our administrative support is shared between those departments, but other than that, you are a member of the computer science department with its own staff, facilities, and its own building. So what about our actual department? It's made up of over 20 academic staff, about 50 or so PhD students at any given time, and roughly 500 undergraduate students, and finally 30 master's students. We have an intake of about 160 undergraduate students each year. In terms of the department and the wider university, Loughborough University has been very highly ranked in a number of National League tables, including The Guardian, which found us 4th in 2020 as a university and 9th as a department. We're very fond of The Guardian. We've been named University of the Year by the Times and the Sunday Times in the last 12 months. And one of the things we're most proud of here in our department is the fact that we always do very well in the National Student Survey. In fact, we came second last year in the whole country. So, let's take a look at our different degree schemes and see what the differences are between them. We offer single and joint honours programmes. Single honours, you study one topic throughout. Joint honours, a split between two different topics. On the single honours side, we have computer science and AI. Computer science and AI being a variant of our computer science degree. And on the joint honours side, we have a shared programme with maths and two shared programmes with the School of Business and Economics, those being computing and management and information technology management for business. As you can see, all our degree schemes are available with the ever popular Bachelor of Science qualification and the slightly newer Master in Science qualification, the MSci. That's not to be mistaken for an MSc, which is a traditional postgraduate qualification to take after a Bachelor of Science qualification. So an MSci is what we call an Undergraduate Integrated Masters Programme. It combines elements of a BSc and an MSc. So, let's start off with computer science, the most popular topic taken within our department. Now, all of the degree schemes that you'll hear about today are available with a placement year, and the majority of our students do choose to take a placement, normally between the second and third year of their degrees. In terms of topics, computer science covers a broad range of topics, ranging from theoretical, algorithmic, through to practical, applied, software engineering and AI. So there's a broad range of topics in there. Now, because of the theory related material that is within the computer science degree, you do require A-level maths as a prerequisite for this course. And that particular course is British Computer Society accredited. Not all courses are, it's worth checking that one. Now, in terms of the degree itself, you'll do mandatory modules in the first 2 years, a few of which I've mentioned already, but in your final year you'll do what we call a final year project. Now, for a computer science student, this has to be a technical project involving the implementation of something. Now, on the right hand side there you have an example image of a system developed by a student. Those of you with a historical bent may recognise that. It's an Enigma machine simulator. So a World War II cryptography machine. Worked well, that. We used to show it on open days. Unfortunately, we've had to do a virtual open day today. In terms of careers, a broad range of careers are supported by a computer science degree, ranging from programmers all the way through to project managers and even R&D specialists. If you're interested in research and development, you may want to consider the MSci variant of the course. Now, although probably the most common career that people think of for a computer scientist is programmer, actually the majority of our students do not go on to be programmers. More of them become the managers of programmers or consultants or analysts these days compared to straight programming jobs. Now, we also offer a variant of our computer science degree, computer science and artificial intelligence. Now, the majority of the modules on this course are the same as that of computer science. It is also available with a placement year, as I've mentioned, and it has an MSci variant. So the topics included are very similar, but there are more AI modules. Now, many of these AI modules are mandatory for artificial intelligence students, but they're actually optional for computer science BSc students anyway. So you could actually emulate a computer science and artificial intelligence degree in terms of modules within our computer science degree if you chose the right options. So really this is about getting the title on the degree certificate that you think will help you in your future career. If you think having AI in the title will help you, then go with AI. Otherwise, computer science. Now, because this is built off the computer science degree, it does require A-level maths again, and again it has full British Computer Society accreditation. Our modules in the computer science department are mandatory in the first 2 years, so the first 2 years of this degree scheme are identical to computer science. The only difference is the optional modules taken by the two different degree schemes. Here we have an example on the right hand side here of a final year project involving artificial intelligence. Now, this particular project a few years ago made use of data from one of our research groups, this being a large quantity of data from a camera system on a major road. The student was identifying different types of vehicle. In terms of careers, the same careers are available to a computer science and AI student as they are to a computer scientist, but they may find that the additional artificial intelligence material does help them a little bit in the AI roles. Now, the project I just explained to you was an AI project, and that's the main difference here. A computer science and AI student is forced to do an AI-based final year project. A computer scientist can choose to do it if they wish to, but an AI student has to. Now, if we have a look at the first of our joint honours programmes, Computer Science and Mathematics, this is a 50-50 split in the first 2 years between our Computer Science department modules and the Mathematics modules. In terms of the Computer Science side, in order to make way for all that maths material, we have had to cut a little bit of the programming, a little bit of the teamwork, and a little bit of the software engineering side of computer science in order to make room. On the maths side, because of the nature of the BSc Maths at Loughborough, it consists largely of a core of mathematical modules that are mandatory and then lots of options. Because we have half a degree scheme's worth of maths modules within this computer science and maths degree, we've managed to fit most of the BSc Maths core within our BSc Computer Science and Mathematics course. This does also mean that you have optional modules in your final year to tailor towards the maths side or the computer science side depending on your preference. Now, this particular degree scheme absolutely definitely requires A-level maths. Now, in terms of final year projects, this again has to be a technical project, however it has to have a significant proportion of mathematics within it. Now, on the right hand side we have a snapshot image of a system that I would love to show you running live, but the way this video is recorded it won't allow me to do so. This is actually the game of life. So all those little black blobs are created, they live, they move, they die, they recreate, they propagate. They have simple genetic rules to help them on their way. In terms of careers, a computer science and maths student does not take quite as much in terms of programming. However, they can become programmers, analysts, technical consultants. Quite a few go into the statistics side. If I were a betting man, I would say that there's a greater probability that a computer science and maths student will end up somewhere in the city working on back-end systems for organisations like banks that prefer to have a little bit more mathematical oomph in their graduates. Now, if we take a look at the 2 degree schemes available that combine computer science material and material from our School of Business and Economics, we have 2 on offer: Information Technology Management for Business and Computing and Management. Again, both available in MSci variants, and placement years are available. Now, in terms of the computer science side, these 2 degree schemes have jettisoned some of the theoretical material behind computer science, so not quite as much work on algorithms, but we've retained the programming side and things like the software engineering and teamwork side. That allows us to make room for business topics, including accounting, marketing, quite a strong emphasis on entrepreneurship here at Loughborough, as well as work on statistics, which comes in very handy in the final year projects. Now, because we've lost some of the theoretical material from computer science, we don't actually require A-level maths for these 2 courses. So what's the difference between the 2? Well, 95% of the modules are identical between the 2, and computing and management can trace back its lineage a very long way here at Loughborough. ITMB is a little bit more recent. ITMB was actually formed from an industry perspective by the government, working with industry to create a degree scheme accredited by industry. In particular, it's accredited by Tech Partnership Degrees, which is an organisation, an umbrella organisation that brings together the views of over 100 different national and multinational companies. Now, the idea behind ITMB is very similar to what we had as computing and management that had already been running for many, many years. However, when it did come along, we were a little bit concerned that ITMB was an acronym that people wouldn't necessarily understand, so we kept computing and management running. And we've never really got round to stopping it. They both seem to have their own niche. ITMB contains some added industry content in terms of competitions, events, guest lectures, that kind of thing. Computing and management is a slightly more traditional degree in terms of lectures, tutorials, still all the lab work and everything else, just fewer mandatory competitions, which we've found some students don't want. So it's very much down to your personality as to which of these 2 degree schemes you would choose between. ITMB for those who actually enjoy getting up on a stage and speaking, and computing and management for the students who would rather not do that if they had the option. Now, there's a slight difference between these 2 degree schemes in terms of their final year projects. ITMB students have to work with a real world stakeholder, so performing some sort of task, maybe completion of a project, a business project or a technical project for an outside company or individual. Computing and management students, like everyone else in our department, is still encouraged to do this, to work with the real world. It's a good thing to do. However, ITMB students have no choice. So a little bit more about ITMB, where their input comes from. So ITMB involves lots of industry engagement at the university and beyond. So at the university you'll have industry insight lectures from senior business leaders. They'll come in, they'll talk about life at the coalface, what it's like to actually go through a business as a career. We also have external events, so every year we will send a busload of students down to what we call the ITMB South event, which is hosted by a major international corporation at their headquarters in a very nice leafy suburb of London. Whilst there, the students will complete various competitions and workshops, get some good experience talking to business, exchanging business cards, making contacts. Now, we also have quite a good working relationship with IBM as part of Tech Partnership Degrees, and IBM do actually come up to do a number of workshops at the university. So ITMB is a little different from a standard degree. So what about projects? I've mentioned that ITMB have to do a project with the real world, but let's look at an example. So on the right hand side there you see a student. That student was called Carl, and he went on to work for PA Consulting. He's now a consultant there. He has been for a few years now. His project, which came out of an idea that he came up with during his placement at PA Consulting, was to create a little gimmick for them. So what they do is they provide consultancy services to external organisations, PA, unless you may be unaware. Now his idea was that they produce little 3D printed IT consultants with an RFID tag embedded in the bottom, and then they actually post them out. So companies would receive a little consultant and they could use their phone to access via the RFID tag videos and resumes, etc., of individual consultants that they could work with from PA. Worked quite nicely. It got him a job at the end of his degree, so I think he's doing quite well. In terms of careers, these two degree schemes lead to quite a broad range of careers from both the business side and the computer science side. In terms of programming, they are just as capable of programmers as many of our computer science students, and they seem to fit in well with the consultant analyst roles. On the business side, they actually have sufficient material to be able to make it as a marketer and definitely as an entrepreneur. If I was to say the most common careers, I would probably say project manager and consultant for this degree scheme. So, what about some of the common elements to the degree schemes that we offer? Well, placement is very popular here at Loughborough, and it's an integrated part of degrees here. So it isn't the case that we just let you go on a placement and welcome you back after 12 months. It's part of your degree. And in exchange for writing some reports to let us know how you're getting on and what you're learning, we'll actually give you a diploma in professional studies on top of your regular qualification. May only be a little thing, but if it's an additional qualification on your CV, it's well worth having. In terms of wage range, I would say that companies generally offer about 2/3 of a graduate salary to a placement student. Typically this ends up as between 16 and about 22k, unless you are prepared to work in the City of London, in which case you're likely to see wages bumping up to around the 50 grand mark. However, of course, you've got the associated living and transport costs with doing so. Pretty good trick to do. If you have relatives who live in London, live with them. You'll save a fortune, it'll help offset your student loan. So where else can you go? You could go anywhere in the world, from Swindon to Malaysia. I get sent to Swindon quite a lot to check on our students, because Intel are based down in Swindon. It's also quite close to Winchester, where IBM's major base is at Hursley. On the Malaysian side, I don't get to visit Malaysia very often. I think I've only made it as far as Switzerland. But you never know, I might be selected one day. We actually come out to check that you're not being abused as an employee, kept on 24-hour call or anything, that you're happy. We also ask questions that you're afraid to ask your manager, like, will they give you a job at the end? So we keep quite a close eye on you as a placement student. You're not just abandoned within industry for 12 months. So I mentioned a few of the companies that students go on to work with at placement. IBM's probably one of our biggest cohorts. We have been known to send a dozen or so students in a given year down to IBM, their main base being at Hursley. However, there are smaller regional concerns, including the manufacturing company Weatherford, that are very fond of our students. There are many of those companies based in the City of London, but also quite a few abroad. So the world is your oyster. Where do you want to go for a year? So let's talk a little bit about the modular structure of a degree here at Loughborough. Now, in terms of years, year 1 is part A here at Loughborough. Year 2 is part B. Year I is the placement year if you choose to take one, and part C is the 3rd year of a degree. normally the final year of a BSc degree. The second line there with the D on it is the Master in Science qualification, so that's a combination of A, B and C from the BSc side plus an additional year at Master's level. In terms of a given year, these are split into two different teaching semesters. The first semester running from October through to the end of January, and the second one running from February through to June. Why do we choose to do that? Why would we run the semester past Christmas? Well, the teaching happens before Christmas, and the revision and the assessment happens after Christmas. So it works quite nicely as a split there. Any given semester could be split into 6 different topics. So you may find yourself learning 6 different things in any given semester. Now in reality, some of the topics are so important they take up more than one of these blocks. So 6 is the theoretical maximum in terms of parallel topics that you're learning. So after parts A, B, potentially I and C, a BSc student will graduate. Your MSci students, the Master in Science students, have got one more year to do, Part D. So what do they do in Part D? Well, they do a large independent research project, very similar to a final year project. They'll do a group-based industrial project, and they'll learn some practical applied knowledge to help them manage projects. In terms of modules, as I mentioned previously, the first 2 years of our degrees are mandatory in terms of modules. You don't have any choices within the first 2 years. This allows us to build a broad foundational base in the topics that you need for your degree scheme. We then open up the final year so that you can choose options that are of interest to you and to define your own final year project. The final year project is worth 1/3 of that final year, so it's quite a lot of time that you will spend on that. So it's good that you get the chance to define your own, to make sure it's something that you're interested in. In terms of modules, if you have a look online, our website does specify the current optional module list. However, please do bear in mind that computer science is a fast-moving discipline and things change from year to year. So one of the questions I often get asked at open days is, well, what's our offer for A-level students? That being the most common qualification that students come to us with. Well, it's AAB for our Bachelor of Science courses, and for our Master in Science course, because it's MSc level at the end, it's treble A. Now, you will require A-level maths for our computer science and AI, and computer science and mathematics degrees. However, not for the 2 joint honours programmes with the business school, computing and management, and ITMB. If you want to study computer science and maths, you'll need grade A at a mathematics A level. Now, you will also require a good GCSE profile, at least 5 GCSEs including maths. If you're on the old GCSE system, that means 5 GCSEs between A star and B, and on the new GCSE system that equates to between grades 9 and 6. We also require English language grade C. Now, in terms of general entry criteria for people with qualifications other than A-level, the most common one we get asked about is BTEC. If you have other qualifications, please contact Dr. Gerald Schaefer. However, for BTEC students, unfortunately, for computer science and AI and computer science and maths, we will only accept BTEC if you've also undertaken maths A-level. The same qualification level applies, so CS and maths requires a grade A maths A-level. For the other 2 degree schemes, ITMB and computing and management, we accept BTEC, Extended Diploma in Computing or IT, at grades D star, D star, D star. Again, as with the previous slide on A-level, you require a good GCSE profile. So, how about a little bit of information about studying with us? Well, you'll recognise many of the study mechanisms from school and college. However, they do take slightly different forms here at university. But as a computer science student, you will be a very applied student, and you'll spend lots of time in labs, doing group work, looking at case studies individually and in groups, taking part in competitions, presentations, as well as the more traditional examinations and coursework. At Loughborough, you'll find that we have lots of different support mechanisms available to help you on your way. At the most individual level, we have pastoral care provided by personal tutors, with every student allocated a personal tutor to talk to, that being a member of academic staff. We also have individuals responsible for keeping an eye on given programmes. So, for example, the ITMB students have their own programme director who will keep an eye on things like the module topics that are being taught, the deadlines that students are working to, etc. On top of that, we also have administrative support to deal with things like illness or absence for one reason or another, to help with filling in of forms, changing of routes on or off our placement system, etc., etc. Now, students often find that they don't necessarily want to share questions that they've got with academic members of staff. Sometimes it's better to share with peers. Every student will be allocated a peer mentor from the year above them so that they can have a chat to someone who's been through what they're going through right now. And finally, we have university level services, which include our student wellbeing and inclusivity service, as well as the library, our IT services, etc. Now, one key support mechanism that we have in place that is very helpful to computer science students is our MLSC, our Maths Learning Support Centre. They operate a drop-in system and also bookable appointments that allow students to ask questions about problems that they've got relating to, for example, statistics, which is very useful when it comes to analysing surveys or questionnaires. They can get additional assistance from this service. If you're interested in how we approach equality and diversity, you'll find that we are a Athena Swan Bronze Award holder. If you're wondering why we're bronze and not silver or gold, the scheme hasn't been on the go for that long, and you have to start at the bottom and work your way up, so we simply haven't had a chance to apply for silver yet. Now, we have quite an interesting seminar series that runs, as well as social events, like our Pint of Science series of events. We also have a number of meet and greets. We use the library for quite a few of those. Please do get involved if you're interested in forwarding our work in this area. Now, in terms of workload, you'll have up to 18 timetabled slots each week, with a timetabled slot being, roughly speaking, a 50-minute lecture, tutorial, etc. Now, we believe here at Loughborough that you need to put in about the same amount of time outside of timetabled slots as you do inside them. So that's pretty much a working week in terms of load. Now, computer scientists are very applied, and you will have to do a significant amount of practical work whilst with us, and some of that work will be in groups. Don't worry if you're unaccustomed to working in groups, we'll train you. Maybe it will be that you'll never actually enjoy working in groups, but it's good training for the world of outside work when you get there. On the left hand side there you'll see an image of a startup company in progress. So this was a competition event. The people in suits aren't students, those are entrepreneurs, and they're listening to student ideas. On the far left there you have the team that won the prize and started a startup company with that entrepreneur. What about graduate salaries? Well, we're actually very pleased with our average graduate salary, which is £29,953. Now, that data comes out of a government survey that takes place where graduate students, about 6 months after they have graduated, are called by the government and asked a number of questions. So you can trust this data. It's not Loughborough data. This is countrywide. 98.8% of our graduates are in graduate level employment or further education within 6 months of graduation. Those are good quality jobs. That's not being a newspaper newspaper person, this is being in a proper computer science role to count as part of that statistic. In case you're wondering why we're showing the 2016-17 survey results, this is because there's a huge lag on the publishing of this data, and this is the most up-to-date universities have at this present time. So, want to know more? Have a look at our department website, or join our web chat on the 25th of June. You can contact our admissions tutor, Dr. Gerald Schaefer, if you have more questions relating to qualifications or entry into the university. I'd like to thank you for listening. My name has been Dr. Russell Locke, and I hope to see some of you here in the coming year. Thank you very much.